Hey friends, a little update before we move on to the main content of this video. You probably have noticed that we haven't been doing videos quite as often as usual, and that is because our summer programs have been filling up and we have people coming, which is really different than the last few years where we could devote ourselves entirely to the videos. So I'm having to get the land ready, get programs ready for people. There's other exciting things happening in our life. The possibility of horses for Mirabelle and Liliana, as you probably know if you follow us, they have been saving up and doing everything they can, learning everything they can in order to achieve this goal of having horses in their lives. And it looks like it will probably happen this spring. So we are doing our best to help them with that, although it's mostly driven by them. And that has also taken up a lot of our time. We will still be getting out videos and other content, so stay tuned as always, and so happy to have you here. This video is one that I did for a friend of mine, and he had asked for a meditation that has to do with food and eating. Now, food is an issue for a lot of us on multiple levels. So for many of us, we eat too much food, and that adversely affects our health. Others of us eat the wrong kinds of food, and that adversely affects our health. And overlaying this whole thing is a main cultural problem, which is that if you are watching this video, if you have the means to do this, you are likely a person who is also, has ample access to food. As we know, this is not the truth for many people in the world. But again, if you're affluent enough to be watching on a screen, then it is very possible that you are in that group of people where food is over available to you. In fact, sometimes you wish there was less of it. Food distribution problems and what this says about humanity solving problems aside, for each of us, what this often means is that we lose our mindfulness about food because it's just always there. It becomes something that we habitually intake rather than consciously engage with. If you know our GLOW meditation, that's one where Rebecca and I found 4 letters. It was an easy to remember word that can help people to have this concise meditation that they can do right away in the morning and can transform their whole day. The same with this. When we sit down to eat, in general, we're either going to do it mindlessly and we're just going to shovel the food in and A, not enjoy it, B, not digest much of the nutrients because our mind is not engaged. It's probably stressed out and filled with fears and anxieties or thoughts of tomorrow. And C, eating in that way further trains our mind into general mindlessness so that we are more easily able to walk through the rest of our life on autopilot in zombie mode. So if we can start to become more conscious of our eating, of our food, this is transformative in many, many, many ways. And as I go through this meditation, I think you will see the effects, which are powerful. So what we have is we have eat. And I have the 2 E's up there. This took me, sadly, a long time to come up with, but I really wanted it to cover 4 main points. And this one, I feel like, effectively does it and isn't too difficult to remember. The first E is going to stand for engage. The second for experience. The A for assimilate. And the T for transmute. Those will all make sense in just a little bit. Let's begin with the first E. This is engage. When we sit down to food, when we see something on the counter that we are going to snack on, then what happens usually is we just reach for it and we put it down our throat. Or we sit down and some of us might even be on a screen and we just eat and we haven't engaged our senses. Now, when we engage our senses, that's when we're actually experiencing life. So this E, this engagement of senses, is vital across the board, no matter what aspect of life we're talking about. But when we eat, if we stop and we take a moment, and literally you can take just 15 seconds for this part of the meditation. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to engage. Now my mind is very good, if I've trained it, at being in my senses. It can be very, very good for most of us at being in my thoughts, but it's not good at doing both at the same time. So when I engage with my senses, I turn off my thoughts and I essentially become more present moment. To engage my senses, I take in the experience I'm having. And it's great with food if I can do this through two main senses. The first is my sense of sight. Most of us rely on this a lot. It's a pretty easy one for most of us. And take in my surroundings. Just see for a moment. Spend 5-10 seconds on this. If there's other people at the table, look at them. Just focus our attention on each one of them for just a moment. Look at the food. See the colors, the textures, the shape, if there's steam. Notice the way light is playing on the table. I'm engaging my sense of sight. Then engage your sense of smell. Ideally, there will be smells, scents coming off of this food that you are able to appreciate. Even if it's a snack, let's say it's a corn chip, take a moment, just smell it. If you have a whole meal in front of you, take one breath and smell that food. We're engaging our senses. What we focus our senses on is not as important as just turning on our senses, which turns off our thinking. Now, yes, you can do this in 15 seconds, but if you take a minute to do this, to really just engage your senses, then you can also use this as a blending period, because the next E is experience. And what that means is that when you take that first bit of food and you bring it to your mouth, that you consciously experience that. And that's going to mean using that skill that you used in the first E, engaging your senses and bringing it to this second E. Try to make a commitment to be present in your senses for as much of this meal as you can, or as much of this snack. Be present. Smell it as it comes to your mouth. If there's textures, feel the textures in your hand. Taste the food. What are the textures like in your mouth? How does it taste? What does it feel like? Does it give you emotional sensations? Likewise, if there are people at the table, if you're engaging in conversation, tune your senses into them. Be conscious with your senses. That's what this experience is asking us to do. When someone says some words to me, to focus on those. Not to eat at the same time that I'm listening to that. To speak back consciously, and then to take food and to eat it, to smell it, to taste it. To do this, there's sort of two main routes. The one is to try to force our mind to be conscious, which doesn't work well for most of us. The other is just to experience it. Recognize that you are affluent enough to have access to this food that you're eating. Don't take it for granted. There, again, are people that don't have this access. There may come a time in your life when you don't have this access. Cherish it. When we cherish something, we experience it. This goes for the people around us. We might look across the table and be having a conversation. This may be the last time you have a conversation with that person. Soak into it. Be grateful for this connection that you're having. Savor it. Likely, this part of the meditation you'll find yourself going into and out of during the meal, because we are very, again, habitualized to eating mindlessly. So you can even have a little sheet with this EEAT that sits next to you when you eat. Set that down. Every time you see that, remember, oh, experience. Experience what's happening right now. You automatically get more enjoyment out of this then. So if life, what are we doing here in this life? If you're trying to earn money or you're trying to, whatever you're trying to do, it likely ends up with you trying to add enjoyment to your life. And that comes in many different forms for many people. Some people want to be rich and they feel like then they can enjoy life more. Some people feel like they want to just do good for others and be of service and then feel that they'll be able to enjoy life more. Enjoy life now. That will give you more energy for everything else you do in your life. And we enjoy life by being present with the experience we're having. So experience it. Now it's the end of the meal or the end of the snack. And we're at the A. This is assimilate. Now, what happens in our body when this food goes into us? It's going to be digested or not. Depending on our emotional state, more or less of the nutrients from that food are going to reach us. So when we're in fight or flight, freeze, when we're in chronic stress, our body, it says digestion isn't important. There's other things that are more important because we're in a stress state. It's thinking about running away from something or fighting something. It's not thinking about processing food. So it does not assimilate that food. Very little of the nutrients get to us. When we take a moment or two after we eat to just breathe and imagine all those nutrients coming into your body, when we do that, we soothe our minds and our physiology. We go into our parasympathetic mind. Breathe deep. Imagine the food going out to every part of you and nourishing your body. Now notice, there's some little tricks built into this meditation. Because if you get to assimilate and you have just eaten a Hostess cupcake, you're probably going to say, okay, I'm ready to assimilate this. And you're going to realize, I don't want to assimilate this. What the heck was in that food? Do I want that to spread throughout my body? So secretly, even though this is not about training us to eat certain things, to eat healthier, it is teaching us that because we are not going to want to assimilate crap food into our body. When we eat a head of broccoli or some wild greens that we've gathered and made into horta, and we think, I want to assimilate that, you're going to feel, yes, you want that to go to every cell in your body because it's going to do amazing things. Likewise, and I should have mentioned this, if we're eating too much food, during that second E, the experience, as we experience the food, we eat more slowly. We pay more attention to when we feel satiated. And that happens naturally just by experiencing the experience we're having. So we naturally start to eat less. This is not about willpower, forcing ourselves to eat less, or willpower, forcing ourselves to eat better food. It's about bringing our attention to it so that naturally we start to eat less if that's appropriate for us, or naturally we start to eat more healthy food. Only takes 60 seconds if you want to just do it minimalist. If you want, you can take 10 minutes. You can lay down or you can sit down and just feel your body assimilating that food. And finally, before you move on, make sure you do tea. And tea is vital because it starts to transform our whole relationship with food. Right now, we might just think, okay, food is something I eat because I'm hungry. Or food is something I eat to enjoy. It is fine to eat because we're hungry, and it's fine to eat to enjoy the food. But the part that's missing, that we really never talk about in our culture, is that food is also fuel. Food is what is allowing me right now to stand up. It's allowing me to speak to you. It's allowing me to cognate and think about the ideas that I'm speaking. That food, in other words, is transmuted into energy that I use for actions. And so now I can say, before I move on in my day, how am I going to transmute this food into action? If I've taken this extra time to really appreciate my food, to assimilate it, Now, am I going to want to take the gift of that energy and spend it watching junk YouTube videos? Because that is a use of it. I am taking that food, the life of other beings, and I'm transmuting it into watching junk YouTube videos. Likewise, do I want to use that energy to be temperamental and mean to the people around me? Is that a good use? Is that honoring the plants or animals that have gone into my body? That energy? Is that honoring it to use it in that way? When I start thinking like this, then I think, how am I going to transmute that energy? Wow, okay, I've got this food and it's given me this energy and I'm going to use it to do some really good stuff. I'm going to use it to make someone smile. I'm going to use it to save an animal's life. I'm going to use it to plant a garden that will make me more conscious of food. I'm going to use it to go out and forage. You have your own list of wonderful, amazing things that you can do with this energy. It may be creative pursuits, might be writing or painting, might be educating other people, might be just being engaged with friends or family. Whatever it is, commit to using that food, transmuting it consciously in a way that's going to honor that food and is going to do justice to you. Because here you are, right? You're not watching this video unless you're trying to live more consciously. You're a gift to this world. And when you start to think of yourself in that way, then you naturally want to do as much good as you can. You want to honor yourself by transmuting any energy that you have in a positive way. There it is, my friends. When you sit down to eat, sit down and eat. EEAT. Again, it's a great helper. If you make up a little card that has EEAT, you can write the words. If you have trouble remembering those next to it, set that down next to you until it becomes an ingrained positive habit that every time you eat some food, you take a moment to just engage your senses. You experience the food. You assimilate that food into your body. And then you consciously transmute that food energy into positive actions on your part. Share your thoughts in the comments, my friends. Thank you for being part of our journey. As always, it is wonderful to be here with you. And I love to hear what you have to say down in the comments. So can't wait to talk to you down there. All right, my friends, we'll see you soon.